very happy to be here and give this presentation in front of you today. So my pitch is about Pyrotechnics. We are PYROALLIANCE. Pyrotechnics as a solution to meet the size, weight and power cost challenge. So which is usually summarized in a SWAP-C acronym. I will elaborate on that obviously today. So my name is François de Grise and I'm the head of strategy and business development at PYROALLIANCE. And so it's my pleasure today to comment this presentation. So first of all, maybe if you're not familiar with our company, PYROALLIANCE, we are a world-leading manufacturer of pyrotechnic and mechanical equipment for defense, space, aeronautics and industry, and defense is our main activity segment. So that's why we are here in Eurosatory 2022. Yeah. Plus loin?
Plus loin.
Okay, okay. So we are a subsidiary of Ariane Group, the famous group in charge of the designing the Ariane family with the new Ariane 6 launcher, which is under design today. We have two sites in France, one located close to Paris and another one on the French Riviera in Toulon. Two complementary sites where we design those products with a little bit less than 200 people. And we do our business with French companies and 30% foreign companies. So we do export our equipment all around the world with a targeted revenue of 30 million. So that's more or less our cruise regime in terms of volume of activity. So before entering really into the topic of my pitch, a few words about the strengths of Pyrotechnics. Again, for those of you who are not familiar with Pyro, Pyrotechnics is a key enabler for the success of the missions because of many interesting features this technology has. First of all, I would say is the energetic density. You have with the energetic material a very powerful material to activate your systems in a short volume. So that's why I'm talking about high energetic density. The reliability of this technology is extremely good. The availability also is extremely good. You can forget your equipment for years, and the day you need to use it, you de-store it, and it's available. The speed of execution obviously also is a key feature of Pyro. When we talk about the activation of an energetic material, you talk in microseconds, and where you talk about the activation of Pyro equipment, moving parts, it's a few milliseconds. So that's really extremely fast and very interesting for defense application. Another interesting feature is the fact that you can control the external effects. You have obviously pyrotechnic equipment where the external effect is desired. When you need to destroy something using a cutting cord, obviously you have an external effect. But there are plenty of pyro mechanisms which function is to activate a moving part, and the pyro itself has no external effect. You will not have any debris or whatever. Everything remains contained in the equipment itself. So that's why I'm talking about controlling the external effects. And last but not least, the synchronicity of pyro equipment is also extremely good because of the standard deviation of the product. You can activate several pyro mechanisms with an extremely good synchronicity. And it's very interesting when you need to, for instance, to release an object which is attached with several points. The synchronicity of the release is extremely important, and that's also where Pyro is extremely powerful. So that's a lot of advantages for Pyro. And that's why we embark our products on a plenty of military aircraft or missiles. We embark our pyrotechnic products on military aircraft, fighters, training aircraft, helicopters, and also on a whole bunch of missiles, every category: cruise missile, anti-ship missiles, interceptors, anti-tanks, and so on and so forth, because all the systems they do need, and they make a trade-off where they conclude to the necessity to use pyro. So what are the functions that are ensured by pyro equipment? You can do plenty of different functions with pyro. You can ignite an engine, for instance. You can transmit pyrotechnic orders all along the chain. You can cut, for instance, cutting a structure for the destruction in a flight termination system. For instance, you need to cut the body of the missile to stop the mission. A cutting cord for that is very appropriate. You can actuate different kind of functions for the opening of the wings of a missile, for instance. You can open and close with valves, opening, for instance, the fuel system of a missile by using a pyro valve. You can separate the different stages. When you have a missile with a solid engine for the start, the takeoff of the missile, then you need to separate the booster from the rest of the missile. You can terminate a flight. You can eject, in that case, you can eject a pilot from an aircraft, and so on and so forth. So that's a very rich bunch of applications that you can do with pyro. So now I come to the heart of that presentation, is how pyro is appropriate to meet this SWaP-C challenge. So I will elaborate a little bit on that. So SWaP-C stands for size, weight and power dash cost. So that means it's one of the main challenges for the future missile generations to optimize that set of parameters, meaning size, reducing the size of the equipment, weight, reducing the weight of the equipment, and power, increasing the power of the equipment. That's pretty obvious, huh? But that's all about performance of the final system. If you want to save space in the missile for the propulsion and improve the performance of the missile, the best way is to reduce the volume and the weight that you use for those equipment that are necessary for the missile to fly. So that's the technical part of the challenge, and there is obviously a financial challenge also to be met, because new generation systems, their aim also is to be more competitive, and system primes, they aim at reducing the cost of their products, and so for us as an equipment supplier, we have a flow down of this objective, which is also to reduce the cost of our products. And so why is pyro appropriate for that challenge? First, in terms of size, we are able to shape and size the pyro mechanisms based on the envelope that is allocated to a function and that is given by the prime, and which is our customer. This is the input that we have. You guys, you develop a function for a pyro mechanism, and we provide you with a shape of an envelope that is allocated to this function. And then this is your job to develop a product that will fit into that space and deliver the expected function. So we are very good at that. We have mechanical experts in the design office who are able to design, and so we design to spec the best product that will fit into the allocated space. In terms of weight also, it's an interesting point. It's mostly a matter of choosing the appropriate materials. So you will select the mostly metallic parts that will be as light as possible, and also depending on the thermical and mechanical constraints, which kind of metal will be appropriate for the application. So aluminium is a good choice sometimes, titanium is a good choice, sometimes stainless steel or what. Well, this is depending on the application and the challenges to be met. But we always select the lighter parts possible. And this is in relationship with the question of power. With the pyro, obviously you do not need any batteries. And we have performed a comparison which is very interesting because these are technologies that are in competition to some extent. You can implement a function with a pyro engine using energetic material to activate your system, but you can also use an electrico-mechanical solution, so which is activated using a battery. And the average comparison that we come to is that typically when you use an electrical solution, you will be 10 times heavier compared to pyro. So that's why pyro is so precious for embarked solutions, and obviously on missiles where you expect to save as much weight as possible. That's really a critical issue. Last but not least, the cost. And that for that we have, I would say, two axes where we can find ways to optimize the cost. So the first one, I think it's a method that is used in every industry, is to design to cost. So start your development with a targeted recurring cost in mind, and not just start the development and at the end notice the resulting cost. So this method is pretty well known, but is pretty efficient too. But I think there is another axis to explore on a way to reduce the costs. It's a question of procurement for the customer, and I think the lever is the following one: is not to procure the pieces one by one, addressing different suppliers. So I will, like a kind of cherry picking, I will purchase an equipment here, another one here, and have to manage the consistency between the different equipments. I think a pretty good alternative is to procure the complete chain from one single supplier. So I have drawn here on my chart the example of a pyrotechnic chain. So this one is inspired from something we have designed for an helicopter. So this is a pyrotechnic chain which is used to cut a structure and drop a tank from the helicopter in case of emergency when it needs to land very rapidly. And so it's a dangerous situation to keep the tank on the helicopter. So the solution is to drop the tank before landing. And so the chain is pretty straightforward. There is a detonator which is actuated manually by the pilot. And then you have pyrotechnic lines, transmission lines, which will transfer the detonating signal to a manifold. And then from the manifold, you have two ways which go to the terminal function. So it's a kind of redundancy because you are sure that you can initiate the terminal function from both sides. So you're sure at least one of them will for sure work. And the terminal function here, it's a cutting cord which is embedded in a housing, a charge holder to some extent, and that will be stick to the structure of the tank, and the cutting cord will cut the structure and release the tank in the end. So that's a simple representation of the system. And why is it so relevant from my perspective for the customer to procure or to purchase a complete chain instead of purchasing elementary items? Is that it enables the supplier to make an optimized design, making sure that all the interfaces between the different components will work for sure, because we are in charge of the design of each part, and we master the interfaces. The transmission of the detonation from one object to the other is something that can be very sensitive. So if you use a detonating cord from a supplier, and then a manifold from another supplier, and then the terminal function from another supplier, you will have to qualify all these interfaces and take the risk at your customer level. In that case, when the customer purchases a complete set, he will transfer the risk to the supplier. So we, as a supplier, we will commit on the qualification of the elementary products, as well as the qualification of the interfaces and the performance of the complete chain. So this is really a clever way to procure things for a customer. And it's also a safe way to master the costs, because we will have a development contract with a firm fixed price. Whatever the difficulties we will meet during the development, this will be charged, I would say, to the supplier. This will be our responsibility to keep the cost under control, and any other costs we'll have to endorse them by ourselves. So it's a good way to cap the cost for the non-recurring effort for the customer. And it's also, as I mentioned previously, it's also a good way to secure competitive recurring costs, because we will be targeted during the development with a target recurring cost for the future. So I think all in all, and back to this swap C, we have with the Pyro the means to meet the challenge for the missile system prime, and clever procurement approaches also to have the best offer for the customer. Yeah. So here on this chart is a sample of our product catalog. So having in mind that we can combine together some of these products, like we have pyrotechnic transmission lines that can ignite here a through bulkhead initiator, which is used for the ignition of an engine, and so on and so forth. So we can combine complete chains and complete solutions using these different bricks. So I invite you to visit our website, where you can download all these product files and learn more about our products. And I also obviously invite you to come and visit us on our booth. We are in this hall, not very far from here, number H261. And I will be happy to take your question right now, or to welcome you on our booth and prolong the discussions together. Thank you very much.